Live streaming is on.
Hey, good morning. It's another Friday or evening, and we're here with the World from Here, another exciting and stressful week for a lot of people. We're going to be talking about the hack that took place, and we've got an individual here that's going to help us out with that as well. And we're also going to talk about Web 3.0, and is it really what you think it is? Because we have a kind of a different view on that. So this morning we're joined by Mr. Jules Bedard, who is our Chief Security Officer, among other things. Good morning and afternoon to you, Jules. You're coming to us from Toronto, correct?
Montreal, actually.
Montreal, okay. I'm sorry about that. And then
you can tell by the accent, Dan.
Yeah. And if you look at the backgrounds, these are real backgrounds. Mine kind of isn't as great as the other two guys here, but Daniele is in northern Italy, and just beautiful where you are. But Daniele Menzi, who's the president of Fusion Funder, and good evening to you, Daniele.
Hey, Dan. Actually, I'm in Austria. I'm in Tirol.
Oh, Austria. Okay.
So yeah,
well,
I can speak German.
I'm two for two now.
Yeah.
I know that Tim is on a boat, and that's all I'll say. But and then Tim Vasco, who's our CEO and the founder of BlockCerts Blockchain. Good morning to you, Tim.
Hi, Dan. Great to be here and here as well.
Yeah. Wow. It is kind of amazing. You know, summer's the end of summer. Everybody's kind of getting out, but it is amazing that one can continue to work, and both of you are working, obviously. And we've got that type of global place where we can work remotely. So we're going to be talking a little bit about that as well. So if you can, if you haven't joined us, please subscribe just up above, and then hit the thumbs up sign. We appreciate it, and our community continues to grow. So with that, Tim, I'll kind of turn it over to you. We're let you kind of kick it off, and we want Jules to kind of talk to us about Polygon and what happened there, and why that's an issue, but also why there are some things that you should know about that.
Well, I guess that announcing where we're all at today kind of fits with what the subject is we're talking about, which is this idea of distributed and decentralized and being able to kind of work with Web 3.0 from anywhere. But I guess the biggest thing to start out with is it's never been about just the technology. So what I want to do is just a primer, and then we're going to share some examples today about what actually is happening in the web, what's happening in the world. But I want to get back to the basics first, like what's centralized, decentralized, and distributed. There are three different things, okay? Centralized, obviously, we should all know now, revolves around one common authority. And there was a great book about this kind of concept years ago, written now. It was called The Starfish and the Spider. And I recommend that book if you really want to understand what different types of decentralized or distributed organizations versus centralized organizations are. And the idea being, big idea being, a spider, if you cut off one of its legs or two of its legs, starts falling over. We're going to talk about some of that falling over in centralized. A starfish, if you cut off one of its legs, and I happen to see lots of starfish where I'm at right now. I was paddleboarding yesterday, saw a few. If you cut off one of its legs, it grows back. And that's the idea of this concept of what we're dealing with in Web 3.0 technologies. Is this idea of decentralized and distributed. Decentralized is where the processes of an activity of an organization are delegated away from a centralized authority, whereas distributed in computing is spreading all of that workload out across different nodes, if you will. And Jules and I talk about nodes like 10 times a day, right?
Yeah.
So these diagrams here, which you can just find on Wikipedia, really make a lot of sense when you start hearing about this stuff. Why is that important? Well, here's a good example of a organization, Polygon, that's dealing with a distributed ledger technology, blockchain, in a combined with a centralized storage of all of these assets, Polygon. And here's what happened, right? There was almost 600 or over 600 million, I think $630 million worth of assets hacked. We're going to ask Jules and Daniele to talk about that. And then the hacker writes in and starts returning these, and he returned $600 million. So first, let's talk about the hack, and then we'll talk about, well, why the heck would somebody return it? So Jules, what happened here?
Well, actually, that's more a sophisticated attack than I thought at the first time. You explained it well. Actually, blockchain is a decentralized and distributed ledger. So everybody is working on some part, and it's completely decentralized. With Ethereum networking, actually, there's smart contracts that are there. That's a portion of code that is written to do some instruction on the blockchain. So basically, smart contracts are a kind of centralized technology. So for example, if I'm trying to hack into a website, that's a server, that's multiple server or something like that, which is centralized. So I can hack a centralized point, controlling it, and then be doing other stuff, malicious stuff on the server, defacing page, stealing credentials and everything. That's basically the same thing when smart contract is not using the decentralized technology. So there's smart contract. What happened is that the hacker injected false transaction. I will try to keep it simple because going into technical I would just lost everyone. So basically, the hacker injected fake transaction and was able to take over the keeper, which is the centralized authority that can control the transaction. And then while he was hijacking the keeper, he was able to validate after that the transaction. So
essentially, let me just ask a question here. So essentially, or kind of point this out, because we talk about this all the time. You have what we would call an admin account or the keeper account, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And what happens is in these, the more automated you get, if that's centralized and you can get control of that account, you actually can act as that authority, that centralized authority, and start getting these transactions to go wherever you want them to go.
Yeah.
So it's very much like a bank transaction or hacking a bank, which is being able to get inside the bank and then use their automated processes to direct funds, right?
Exactly. And that's where it becomes complicated because the hacker didn't hijack that central authority. Basically, what he did is he used a vulnerability inside the smart contract to inject his own keeper. So he modified the keeper, which is the admin of the smart contract, to be able to validate the transaction. So there was a portion of the code as a vulnerability inside the smart contract that allowed the hacker to transfer the funds. So that's how the attack goes.
And Jules, I've had this question over and over again in the last day. So is blockchain safe? And I think what you're saying is there are two different things, correct? You're centralized versus decentralized. I just want to make sure we make that point. So if you could talk about that.
Well, there's, again, Dan, good point. There's three things. So going back, I'm actually going to go back. Let's go back a screen and see this. They're centralized.
Right.
Oh, I think we lost him.
Coming.
Yep, you're frozen and
he's sitting too fast.
Yeah. You'll come back. So Jules, if you want to just kind of talk about that, centralized versus decentralized, you were talking about that, but I think a lot of people just assume a smart contract is blockchain, and therefore, is this safe? Is it not safe? there's Tim back again too. So
Yeah.
Yeah. Let
You're
me.
back, Tim?
I'm back. Yeah.
Okay.
So there's three things going on here. There's centralized, decentralized, and distributed. Okay. All three of those are acting simultaneously. So what Jules is explaining is the smart contract that's sitting here is operating these two things here. Okay. Distributed is blockchain. So is blockchain safe? Absolutely. It essentially has been hack proof. If it wasn't, there wouldn't be Bitcoin. Okay. So that part of the code wasn't affected. Okay. That's the blockchain piece. Decentralized means these are nodes. These are all floating around out here as nodes. And each one of these can have its own kind of unique identity and be doing different things. And over here there was a smart contract that was written by Polygon to handle transactions across these networks here. That's what was going on. Okay. Yep. Since he was able to access this, he could talk to these nodes, and those nodes, this just did what it was supposed to do. This just sat there as a ledger and operated exactly like it was supposed to. These effectively operated like they were supposed to. This code was violated here and told them to do a different thing. That's what happened.
Yeah. So basically, it's not the blockchain that became hacked. It's the central authority that was controlling it. So DeFi and a lot of company do that. So they just bypass it. They just go straight to the easiest point to have a central control. And these days, people are automating that. So that's why he was able to do it. So there's still central authority when you're talking about DeFi and something like that, because there's a need for validation at some point if you want to do something. So all the transactions are all decentralized, but there's still something in the middle, or exactly. I should say there's a piece of code which could be automated, which is smart contract that is running, and that's a central point that you can hack into. I mean, at BlockCerts, we use multi-sig wallet. We use auditing on those things, but yes, there's still always central points. So.
Yeah, and we should not forget that. So even if it's it's a nice piece of software, it's built by humans.
Yeah,
and as anything built from humans might have some leakages, some leaks, some issues, might be wrongly written, and almost none of the smart contracts in DeFi are being audited.
Yeah.
So it means
exactly.
The software is being released at the best effort. And Polygon, we should not forget, it's a cross-chain protocol. It's a layer 2 scaling solution across multiple blockchains like Ethereum, Binance Smart Chain, and others. And this is the second incident in a row of cross-chain protocol. The first one was Tor chain, that is swapping natively assets from Bitcoin to Ethereum. And on top of it, we have experienced one of the major upgrade of the Ethereum network. And by coincidence, at the same time of the hacking that happened, which is the EIP 1559, that somehow has created an additional issue across the whole software landscape. So I think it's very unfortunate what happened, but we should not forget that this is a very, very new technology. So, this
wasn't the first time that something's happened. Back in 2016, the DAO, which was the Decentralized Automated Organization, which attempted to actually take the entire organization and automate everything, got hacked almost immediately. Yeah. And it was a $50 million hack, which led to actually the hacker saying, listen to this. So this validates everything Jules just explained. I have carefully examined the code of the DAO and decided to participate. After finding the feature, I'm disappointed by those who are characterizing the use of this intentional feature as, quote, theft. The terms of the DAO creation are set forth in the smart contract code. And then he goes on to say, a soft or hard fork would amount to seizure of my legitimate and rightful ether, claimed legally. I reserve all rights to take any and all legal actions against the accomplices of illegitimate Yours truly, the attacker.
Wow.
That was written by the guy who acted. So as long as I'm at sea and I'm a sailor, let me explain the law of the sea. If a boat's just floating around out there and you find it, by the law of the sea, it's yours, right? So this guy's basically claimed in 2016 the law of the sea, right? If you just have this code floating around out there or this ether floating around out there, it's mine, right? So what happened? What happened next was this, and I love this. This is why the guy starts giving it back. Yeah. It's like stealing the Mona Lisa. He says, great, congratulations, but what do you do with it? You can't sell it. It's too big to be sold. So why give the money back? Because, and then this recent hacker came in and said, well, it's not really hacking, so to speak. It was good hacking. It was good guy hacking, right?
Yeah, white hack. Yeah, white hat.
It was right? White hat hacking, just showing you the vulnerability, just trying to show you, which is true. I mean,
I'm such a good guy.
Hacking. Right. So, you know, and then in 2016, Vitalik Buterin, the creator of Ethereum, came in and said, the development community is proposing a soft fork. We won't get into that. And it's going, this will later be followed up by a hard fork, which will give token holders the ability to recover their ether. So essentially a centralized authority, Vitalik, and whoever the board was of Ethereum at that time rolled it back. And that created a huge question of what we're talking about today, which is what is centralized, what is distributed, what is decentralized. And there's a term for this now that we're seeing emerge called governance.
Yeah.
And governance is the way that the blockchain ecosystem, or what I'm going to now call Web 3.0, is structured. Yeah. That's very critical, because governance and all of this, the reason the DAO failed is there's no such thing as a decentralized automated organization. If it was completely automated, actually the guy who wrote the bit about the code being, hey, that's how the code was written, is right. He actually technically is right. So you get into this idea of technical, moral, and ethical, or what we say at BlockCerts, trust, truth, and transparency, right? You have to have all three of those elements operating, and then you get into this idea of control. Where does the control lie, and where is the intersection between what is code, what is human, what is intended to be done, and as Daniele said, where is human error? Because human error or human bias is naturally built in to this code. And so we're talking about distributed technology right now, but there's tons of research being done right at the moment on AI and the idea of who's in control and what are the biases. So the reality is that there's always a question of who's in control, who are the centralized authorities we know now, right? And what are they doing with our data, with our technology, with their business models and things like that? And then ultimately, who's in control here? Satoshi Nakamoto, who nobody knows who that is, because he came up with Bitcoin.
That's why he has no face.
That's right. Or here's Vitalik, and he's waving out there. I'm Ethereum. I'm Mr. Ethereum here. Right. So distributed ledger technology and centralized always has this human element behind it.
Well,
right?
and Tim, I love this. I love this slide here that you're showing, because it really shows, two different sides of a coin. And if you do a look up on Web 3.0, you see Google talk about how they're leading Web 3.0. It's like that's, they want to claim that. They want to continue to centralize and control, which is the opposite of what Web 3.0 purpose really is, correct?
Yeah. So, Web 3.0 is really about, like I say, it's not about the technology
right
per se. The technology's been there for some time. It's about who controls the technology, who's in control, right? And what are you in control of? And what is the governance behind that? And so I go back to what Walter Bagot, he was in the 1800s, was a British journalist and essayist and involved in government. And he said the most famous quote, "It's mystery in life is its life. We must not let daylight in upon the magic." And this has been quoted. Bagot wrote Lombard Street, A Description of Money. He was the first one to really describe what money and capital markets were in understandable forms. In this quote, he's talking about a centralized authority, the British monarchy, right? And so the idea being control, money, and business model. That's Web 3.0. And the bigger issue than the technology, and we can see all these technologies held by those centralized authorities in control being used and having been developed, right? So think about Watson for a minute. Watson, who is that? What
IBM.
Technology is
Yeah.
IBM? Exactly, right? TensorFlow is Google's algorithm they open sourced a few years ago that is their AI technology, right? All of these Web 3.0 technologies are already there. In fact, what I would argue is they're incredibly stable now, incredibly stable. As Daniele said, they're so stable, you can actually sit down. Jules does this all the time and audits smart contracts, audits security code. We audit things because we've got protocols. Oh, here's a vulnerability, right? We do that on a constant, ongoing basis. Yeah. Everybody does that is trying to build this technology for use and scalability. Okay. But the question then becomes, is it about the technology? Technology, guys, we already know what it is, right? We get it. How it's assembled, how a cook cooks the dish, what makes one gourmet and what makes one McDonald's, they're all food, right? But the difference is how you combine the ingredients. What's a gourmet burger versus a McDonald's burger, right? And those kinds of things are what we're talking about really when we talk about technology. And we get into this idea of who's in control. And so when we talk about putting this app, this D app, this wallet on and putting that cloud onto your actual laptop devices like we've done here at BlockCerts, we're really talking about breaking down that centralized authority and building that code in a way that you're in control. You're still now who's the centralized authority around your data? You are, right? That's Web 3.0. That's the big change. That's the daylight upon the magic. The magic is how all this technology evolved. The daylight upon it is, guess what? You can be in control instead of Google, instead of Facebook, instead of Microsoft, instead of Apple. You can have more control over your data and your tools. You can now, if you can control that, think about this. The real disruption is the business model then, isn't it? It's I get to choose what I use. Yes, I understand there's a cost to it. I have to pay for it, but it's my choice. That's why we came up with the choice program at BlockCerts, right? All the tools you want, all the technology you can eat. You're going to pay compute charges with the community. You're going to pay storage charges, right, Jules? Yeah, like that's not free. The network pays for it.
Yeah.
There's servers and things that are actually doing this work. It costs money. It costs electricity, things like that. But who's in control of this component part, which is the data and the tools? That's what it means, Dan.
Awesome. And I think reframing the question from is blockchain safe versus is centralized safe, that's also, something to note, because, centralized databases have been hacked at a rate of, 2,950 of them in 2020, and already 50% higher in the first 3 quarters of 2021. So, what is more safe? And I would just reframe that question: is centralized safe? Blockchain is safe, as what you're saying, Jules.
Yeah, well, as Tim said, we need to take the human part in it too, because a centralized place can be really safe. For example, we can do audits and look for vulnerability for one server or something like that for one services at one point. It could be safe or safe, and blockchain can be safe also, or can be unsafe if badly used, like we just saw right now with the hack. So that's the human that's coding that.
Yeah, but I think it makes it. I just want to tell about
combination of those ingredients.
Right. Go ahead, Daniel.
Yeah, I wanted to say that. So now, obviously, this is very evident what happened within the Polygon hack. So 600 million something hacked, whatever. But in the recent hack case, no one has really lost money. So while it happens on a regular, in some different landscapes or technology framework, someone might really be experienced at losses. So I'm not saying DeFi, is 100% sure, because there are rug pulled attacks where liquidity is being removed by the pools. So in that case, your funds are completely gone and you not recover that. But with regards to these type of attacks, people are not really losing money. So in the sense that they're kind of protected somehow. So, and if I take, for example, Torchain, no one really lost a dime. So it is true that these attacks happen, but at the end of the day, we don't have any specific loss by consumers there. So which it gives kind of a perspective that is getting better. I'm not saying it's perfect. Nothing is perfect. Only nature is perfect. Technology by far is not. So, but I think it gives a certain level of perspective that things are getting better. And only the fact that you can keep your funds under control, at least you know where they are. I'm not saying you have to keep custody of your funds, but at least you know where they are, how you can check them. It gives a certain level of comfort, and I think it's getting better and better. Last but not least, the Square. I don't know if you heard what happened. I think a few weeks ago, Square is massively entering into the wallet space, because right now, if we think about what we're going to do in Web 3.0, it will be very, very essential to have a smooth interaction with the wallet back and forth. So wallet, it is, and it will be even more a central piece of security that any of us should be put the highest priority. What is the best wallet? How can I keep my funds safe there? And then choose the best solution at choice.
Exactly.
Great, thank you. And Tim, it gets back to governance too. I think that just
it's back
point.
to governance. It's back to what Jules is talking about. How do you combine these technologies? What Daniele's talking about, which is this idea of the wallet being the ultimate central authority, which is why we've worked so hard at putting that wallet and those component parts together at BlockCerts, so that as we've released this wallet now to our token holders, and we continue to add the tools and the functionalities out there, including Meet Certain right here, which Jules led. Thank you, by the way, Jules led the build of in 2020, and the evolution of the web is, we've just let daylight in upon the magic, but here's the magic, and here's the secret, is it's been an evolution from the beginning of the web, Netscape, and when it emerged to in Web 1.0 about 1.1 trillion, to Web 2.0, where it went about 6x to 5.9 trillion, now to Web 3.0. All these technologies build upon themselves. All this knowledge, all the stability, all the structure builds upon itself. And what the reality is now, and we're seeing Polygon, which is cross-chain, what we're seeing are these protocols, and protocols are governance, okay? There are 3 major protocols. One that we use as our first protocol at BlockCerts, which is proof of authentication. This is our ID certain. Without authenticating, you can't do anything on our network. Nothing. Like we first have to know who you are. If we don't know who you are, this idea of identifying and de-identifying yourself is completely available on BlockCerts. So you identify and then you de-identify. But we know that private key and that key that's running those contracts has been authenticated. That's proof of authentication. Then we get into this idea of proof of stake. Stake is what can the stakeholders do, right? Think of that as like shareholder votes or what have you. That's the stake of a contract. That do you have a stake in this? Yes, you do. How much of a stake do you have? Is your stake going to be affected by others? And that's where this idea of governance or community comes in. And finally, proof of work. What creates that transaction? What's the work and the algorithmic model that creates these blocks? So this is very new, combining protocols and combining cloud computing. We just released our first cross-chain bridge between BlockCerts and Ethereum, and that's multi-hop blockchain. This is like academic research still, which it's multi-hop cross-chain combined protocol cloud computing, and it's all part of that. That's Web 3.0. What's the value of that market? Daniele, it looks like, fell off with his internet connection, but it's quadrillions. It literally is quadrillions, and that's the next generation of this. Why is it going from 1.1 trillion to 6 trillion to quadrillions? Because quadrillions are what are the entire ecosystem. And as we've learned with COVID, our entire ecosystem is so dependent on digital technology.
It's all interlinked. Yeah.
It's the underpinning. It's the underpinning of it, right? So the reality of all of this is it's been an evolution. And Jules has been around the block, and so have I, for decades now at this, building these things out. And that's why, Dan, when we say cloud power to the people, we're offering that control, and that equals trust, truth, and transparency. That's the governance model. That's it.
Yeah.
And that's leveling the playing field. So we have taken, not unlike the evolution of all these kind of models around the world, which were political systems and things like that, we've taken technology and said, here you go. Here's how you can use this and have control of it. Now, do you know all the geeky stuff that he knows, that Jules knows, and that I know? No, but do you care?
Yeah.
Do you care?
Thank goodness for you guys.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That gets back to the Netflix. You just want to turn on a button and know it's streaming.
It's not a great job. Many days it's not a great job. And as we were just talking about, our families know that, right, Jules?
Yeah, they know that.
But that being said, it's amazing because that's what's operating the world, and effectively that's what's gotten us past this idea of what's happened during COVID. And so as we built that, what we're releasing in the next week or two is VaxCertain, this COVID wallet vaccine, the COVID passport, all of those identity things. And the reason we can do that is because we've already been engineering for years now, decades now, this combination between the three biggest protocol or biggest foundational elements, underpinning elements out there, Dan.
Right.
Centralized, who's in control? Decentralized, what are the nodes? Where is it? So it's who, where, and accounting for the transactions or distributed ledger. Think of it as a ledger, a location, and a authority. Putting people in that authority, in that driver's seat. If you look at our new choice program, our new homepage coming up at BlockCerts.com, I'd encourage you to look at it next week. We'll send out to our community members an announcement. You'll see the marionette hand with a king's crown on top of it. And I love the image because that's exactly what it is. Who's in control?
Who's in control?
If
Yeah.
you're in control from your wallet, all of a sudden you control your cloud. And that's Web 3.0 in a nutshell.
Right. And Tim, we've been getting a lot of questions just about where we're going. And for token holders, we'll be providing more information this week on what we're doing. But people are downloading wallets, and we're finding where they have had, just questions about that. And then also we're adding new features, like you said, choice and the back certain, and some very exciting things into the wallet, which has never been done before for any wallet. And it is a huge differentiator and very, very exciting what we're doing. So we'll keep you updated. And for token holders, we continue to send out information every week. And if you're not a token holder, please join us. We have a growing population that's joining us in this effort. And you can go to token.blockcerts.com to join us. And if you haven't already done so, subscribe and give us a thumbs up. So with that, thanks for joining us, Jules. Very, very informational. And what you said in our Telegram channel was, I think, awesome last night. Thank you. And if you haven't joined our Telegram channel, do that too. So with that, Tim? Yeah.
Yeah, and I'd like to just say I'm super excited about our choice program. We called it choice because it's your choice. It's one program, and with all the tools we've already released and the ones we're coming out, it's just going to get super exciting from here. So again, follow us about the choice program. Think of it as our Amazon Prime, all that you can eat, technology, data capacity, and software. Your own cloud. And Dan, with that, I'm going to say, everybody stay safe, stay healthy, and stay digital. If you stay digital, you get to work from anywhere like I'm doing today.
Beautiful.
And Jules is doing from Montreal. And that's what we're doing. This is all on BlockCerts technology right here.
Yeah.
I touch no other technology other than BlockCerts on every device I've got. So awesome. Thank you, everybody, and have a great week.